sports news you need. Live.
Well, hello, very good afternoon to you, and welcome to the locker room. And I think it's the first time we've actually done a show, Glenn, this year that we've actually presented the show, and it's still about a daylight outside.
I know that might be due to the fact that I've not actually closed my curtains for a change. I've actually got the curtains open this time, so folk can see that it's quite light here in Pennycook.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get really excited about a daylight for about 10 minutes, and then it becomes dark again. But it's brilliant to see daylight now. So now you know we're coming to the end of the season, but there's no football to look forward to this year. No World Cup. Just a tournament called hide and seek as well. But so enough of my hide and seek jokes. It's been a quiet news week for it's all been the focus has all been on the politics, current affairs, and all that. But never mind, we are not going to go into that tonight. We've got enough to continue with Scottish football, and that will fill tonight's show and Sunday's show as well. Graham, how have you been?
I'm all right. I've been on holiday this week, so I'm gutted that I'm going to be back to work next week. But looking forward to hopefully what should be a decent weekend of football. Hearts on TV on Sunday. I hope they don't spoil my weekend. Please, Hearts, don't spoil it for me.
I actually was going to. I know I can put money in the tin when I mention Sky Sports, but I actually was going to fall off my chair last weekend when they said Motherwell against Hearts, and not a Celtic game or Rangers game. I was a shock horror, but well done. You only took about 5 years to show an Old Firm game, but there you go. So that's my rant over for this week, right, Graham? I'm not going to mention it until we come on to speak about the Motherwell Hearts game later on. So, of course, you can get in touch the usual ways. I'm not going to bore you with that because, well, okay, well, you can comment on Facebook Live or YouTube, or you can comment on Twitter using the Locker Room Indie. Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well, and please get our follows up because we're up to 441, I think it is, Graham. I had a wee quick check before we come on, but come on, boost the numbers and get us up there. So we're on until 7 o'clock. Did you know that I was a bit of a salesman, Graham? No,
I didn't know that. No, you're doing well though.
I didn't know that either. Del Boy's not got looking, but I have got his jacket.
I think I might look like Rodney, to be fair, so I'll be a plonker for the rest of my life.
Dave.
I do like Trigger though, he's my favourite.
Yeah, no, exactly. Green Grass of Home, that was another one of my favourites as well. I don't know if it was a spin-off of. Anyway, sorry, we digress. Are we live? Yeah, I think we are. So we're going to talk about the weekend's action now. And it was a good win for Motherwell during the week against Mirren. A surprising one, but I mean, how many times as a manager lost his job and a new manager comes in and gets a bounce over the team and wins? But we're going to be speaking about that. So, Graham, let's begin at the... obviously, we've got some championship games to talk about tonight, and there's 2 games on tomorrow. Tonight as well. I've not really got them in front of me at the moment. Yeah, so we have Morton against Dundee. That'll be a good game, Graham, actually. And then we have got another game in the championship. It is Queen's Park is at home to
Wraith Rovers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was my fault. Actually, I should have left it on my computer, but I messed it up. Yeah, so we're going to look forward to that game and talk about Packet Fizzle because it's been a quiet all week. If you're a Packet Fizzle fan. So let's begin tomorrow, Graham. Premiership action kicks off with Celtic against Aberdeen at Celtic Park. I saw them last week against St Mirren, and I think we spoke about this on the show on Sunday, Graham, that I don't know about you, but for people, well, like yourself watching on the TV, it was like a breath of fresh air because usually you watch these games and teams like sitting and, park the bus as you were. But St Mirren came out and had a go, or like Celtic won 4-1 at the end of the day. But, I mean, St Mirren put a decent shift in.
Yeah, they didn't. I think there's no doubt that the sending off probably had a big effect on the game because then Celtic get their kind of later goals after the sending off, which I'm still, and I said this last week, I still don't think that's a sending off. I think it was very harsh on Taylor to get sent off for that handball, but the quality of that Celtic squad that they've got, you're bringing guys off the bench like Turnbull and like O who score. So that Celtic squad is very impressive. But yeah, fair play to St Mirren. They did have a goal, and it is very difficult. You've got to try and get the balance right between how do you play Celtic, especially at Parkhead. Do you sit back and get beat anyway, or do you have a go and that might happen? So it is difficult to get the balance right. But I thought they did play well last week, but it just Celtic's quality showed in the end. And of course, I think it was earlier on today as well that came out that Kyogo looks like he's going to be fit for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know if, if you're possible, do you start him? Do you risk him? Well, you've got O that can easily play. So you've got plenty of options tomorrow. And I know that Aberdeen have had a break because they weren't in the Cup last week. Is that going to have helped them? I'm not sure. I think going to Celtic Park, I don't expect anything other than a Celtic win. I think if we Barry Robson, it might be about the performance for Aberdeen. Again, do you have a go? Do you sit in? Do you try and make it difficult? I just think that Celtic, and I say this every week, but that Celtic squad is so strong. And I think it's going to be a hard game for Barry Robson. I think Celtic will win. But again, I was looking on Twitter earlier on today, and like a lot of Celtic fans were like picking what team they're going to pick tomorrow. And all through that Celtic squad, it's just so strong. And again, something else I said last week, it doesn't matter who you leave out, you're bringing somebody else in that's still quite as strong. So it's not making them any weaker. It's just I just can't see anything other than a comfortable Celtic victory tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like this as well, Graham. But that no matter who Andrew leaves out, and I don't know if he will risk Kyogo tomorrow because of that game next week, the cup final on that Sunday. What will be? We'll have a show by the way at 5:00 on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Guess what? We'll get that in there, Graham. But I'm not sure if he will risk him or not tomorrow. Possibly if he starts the game, I don't think he'll finish the game. But the other way about as well that if he's not on the starting 11, there'll be a sub and come on for about 15 minutes towards the end of the game. Gooski getting back up and running again because Celtic's not got a game now. After tomorrow, coming that Sunday against Rangers in the League Cup final. So I'm not entirely sure, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't matter who Celtic brings in now. They've got quality throughout the team and even the bench. I mean, you just have to look at the bench as well.
I mean, that's what I mean. I kind of feel, and I think I said this in previous shows, I kind of feel sorry for David Turnbull. He's a very, very good football player. He's got a lot of ability. He can score from pretty much anywhere. And he can't get in that Celtic side because it is just so strong. And I think as well, like Haksabanovic can't start. You've got other guys that can't get a game either. So it's very difficult. I'm not going to tell Postecoglou what he should do, but I genuinely don't think there's any need to risk Kyogo tomorrow. I think keep him fit, keep him fresh for next weekend because obviously the cup final is going to be a massive game. I don't want to disrespect Aberdeen, but I don't think Celtic are going to need Kyogo for this game. I think you can have him on the bench, bring him on with half an hour to go, 2 minutes to go, whatever. I just think whatever team Celtic pick is going to be far too strong. I think for Aberdeen, again, it's such a difficult game. You know, I don't know who they're going to get in as a new manager. This could be a big test for Barry Robson. If Aberdeen go there tomorrow, put in a good performance, don't get hammered, maybe that might go away to giving Barry Robson the job full time. I don't know if Aberdeen fans would particularly want that or if they want somebody else in. But this is a potential interview for Barry Robson. If he can go there against a former team, of course, because he used to play for Celtic, this could be a big game. This could be a big game for him. How he sets his team up. On you go.
Yeah, no. I was just going to say, you mentioned David Turnbull. He's out tomorrow. He's the only one that's out the team tomorrow with an injury. So it won't find it difficult to get in that team tomorrow, Glenn, because he's out.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that. So yeah, I mean, I just think. But even when he is fit, he's such a gifted player. I've watched Turnbull over the years, and he's such a really good footballer. And he just cannot get into that Celtic team because it is very hard to break into. But Celtic got so much quality. I think even last week against St Mirren, they could afford to leave Hatate on the bench, who's probably been one of Celtic's best players recently. He comes off the bench and scores 2. So all through that Celtic squad, they are just so strong. And I think it is a chance for O, to see what he can do tomorrow, starting the game, because he's not started yet. So there's a chance to see what he can do tomorrow. He'll obviously benefit from the fact he got his first goal last week. He'll be full of confidence. So yeah, that Celtic at Celtic Park are just such a strong side. And I said this to you before we came on air. I'm gutted that Hearts have drawn Celtic in the Cup. I knew it was coming. I said it was coming. So yeah, I mean, Celtic have got big games to come. And I don't think they're going to have to risk Kyogo tomorrow. They've got more than enough quality to win this game. And I'd say for Aberdeen, it's such a difficult prospect. I can imagine them maybe going 4-5-1 tomorrow, just trying to be probably a bit more defensive minded and trying not to get hammered. But it's going to be so difficult. And I genuinely don't see anything on the Celtic win. And I think as well, and again, something I say quite often as well, if Celtic score early, I think you could be looking at 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think at the end of this season, Graham, all the Celtic fans would be comparing Andrew's team to maybe last season, and also dare say it to Brendan Rodgers' team as well. Because I think there's comparisons between the team now and last year. Okay, they were brilliant last year, but I think they're better now because they've actually spent a whole year together. But I mean, in terms of and I know we're not at the end of the season yet, but do you think Andrew Postecoglou would want to focus more on Europe next season? Because, Celtic's not, they've been very, well, apart from this season in parts, but they've been very poor in Europe this season.
Yeah, I mean, last season wasn't great, obviously, knocked out of pretty much every tournament very early. This season, I think the Champions League, we did those Champions League shows, and I did say that in pretty much all of those games, Celtic competed well. They just didn't have that, surprisingly, that clinical instinct. But you look at that game against Real Madrid at home, they were, for the first half, they were excellent. They just couldn't score. And then Madrid's quality shone through. So, yeah, I think next season, I think Postecoglou will be looking to do better in Europe. There's no doubt that they'll strengthen again in the summer. I don't know what positions, but I'm sure they will strengthen. And I think in terms of this squad over like a Brendan Rodgers squad, I think the thing Brendan Rodgers squad has, Brendan Rodgers went through a whole season unbeaten. They were undefeated. They went on that 16-game unbeaten run, I think it was. That Celtic side was extremely impressive. This Celtic side is very good, don't get me wrong. But I think that Brendan Rodgers side was probably better than this Celtic side. But I do think this season, and again, I think I've said before as well, I think Celtic will win a treble this season. They'll win the league. I think they'll beat Rangers next week in the Cup. And then all they've got is the Scottish Cup, which I think they'll be, again, favourites to win. So Postecoglou, again, is probably going to have a few trophies as well in the cabinet. But I just think in terms of kind of trying to put this Celtic side over the Brendan Rodgers side, I think that Rodgers side was probably better.
I mentioned about David Turnbull missing the game. Kyogo fit, as you were saying, Graham. But although he says everybody else is fine, we focus on one game at a time, because you could imagine, Graham, all the questions today was about that cup final next week. And basically he was saying that that's why I took a week off last week doing the press conference, because you always speak about games far ahead of ourselves, and like the Rangers game coming up in the league as well. You know, are we kind of joke he was saying about it, but he must get sick of the questions that he get asked. But no, he just said just focus on one game at a time.
Yeah, that's all he can do. I mean, he's going to have a whole week next week in the build up to the cup where he's going to get asked plenty of questions. So yeah, and actually it's quite weird because I was obviously at my mother-in-law's last week and my brother-in-law was there, and he and his partner and aunt and uncle were in Edinburgh. I think it was, what day is this, Friday? They were in Edinburgh on Wednesday, and they were walking past the train station, and this couple walked past them, and it was Ange Postecoglou and his missus. And I actually said to my brother-in-law, "Did you speak to him?" He's like, "No, I didn't say anything." And they just obviously walked along quite happily. Nobody was really bothering him, and he probably doesn't get that in Glasgow. Probably everybody who goes in Glasgow is going to get asked numerous questions and get stopped for photos and stuff. He's obviously come to Edinburgh thinking, I'll get away from it for a little bit because nobody will talk to him in Edinburgh. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a journalist job to ask questions, and I'm sure they want to know about next week. But every manager will say the same thing, not just Postecoglou, but every manager. I'm sure Michael Beale will say the same thing. It's one game at a time. You know, we get this game out of the way first, and then we move on to the cup final. That's just what happens. So yeah, I mean, all Postecoglou can do is just look at this game tomorrow, get that game out of the way, and then you can fully concentrate on the cup final, it's a massive, massive game. I mean, we're going to be on at 5 o'clock next week, and I guarantee it'll go extra time and penalties. So this is going to be brilliant next week, isn't it?
It was also asked about. I don't know if you saw Michael Beale's comment yesterday and David Martindale's comments as well, where basically Michael Beale was saying that Celtic's we can't catch Celtic this season. But I know that we're going to move on to talk about Rangers in a minute or two. But if you were a Rangers fan, would you not be a bit disappointed would you be disappointed that your manager is coming out and making these comments?
I actually think a lot of what Michael Beale says is a bit weird, to be honest. I think he's done okay as a Rangers manager so far. I don't think they've really been particularly great. Okay, they were good against Hearts, but we were dreadful. But I don't think they've actually played that well, even against Partick last week. You know, we were on air doing the show, and I thought Partick was the better side. Yeah. And some of the comments he's come out with recently, especially about like certain pundits in the media who've had a better career than he's ever had, I just find some of his comments a bit strange. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Rangers fans deep down probably think the title has gone, because Celtic are very much far ahead and they've got a better side. But you want to kind of have that bit of optimism, and if you manage to come out and say pretty much the title's done, we can't catch up, then that's not great. But as I say, I do think a lot of what Michael Beale said at times, it's a little bit strange.
Good evening to Anne-Marie. She's watching on Facebook tonight, and she says Scotland. So well done. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. We're not talking about Scotland this week because the rugby team isn't playing, but we are talking about the Premiership and the Championship. So stick with us until 7 o'clock as well. Graham, I was just reading online there that Aberdeen has went through a bit of a sticky spell, as we know. Jim Goodwin lost his job, blah, blah, the rest is history. But Aberdeen has sold out the away allocation. Craig, Aberdeen fans must be they must be well versed, because obviously it's not been the best season, but they're still coming up to follow the team. What's that, 4 hours away? So it's not really down the road, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to Aberdeen. You know, they've as you mentioned, they haven't had a particularly great time recently, as we all know. And I think to take that kind of support down to Celtic Park, I think is fantastic. It just goes to show that no matter how badly you're doing, the fans will still turn up. You know, Aberdeen, we always know that Aberdeen have got a fantastic support, and especially a great away support as well. And going down to, you know, they don't have a great record at Celtic Park. A lot of teams don't. And to go there, probably more in hope than expectation, I think is fantastic. So massive credit to Aberdeen fans for going down there. You know, you saw what they were like at Easter Road when Jim Goodwin got sacked. They took a massive support down there. Given the fact they've been beaten by Darvel, they got hammered by Hearts, it's still like a great support. So no matter what you say about Aberdeen and the fans, they do have a fantastic away support, and they'll need it tomorrow. Honestly, I don't think they're going to get in the game. I think they'll probably get beat quite comfortably, but massive credit to them. And I think if you're Barry Robson looking at that support again, it's going to be great. And again, I just hope, from an Aberdeen point of view, that they give their fans something to be proud of tomorrow. You know, they've got to try and compete.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped in. Sorry, Graham.
No, I was just going to say they've got to try and compete and try and win their individual battles. Yes, Celtic's got a better squad and a better side, but they've got to try and, you know, their last couple of away games, hammered by Hearts, hammered by Hibs, beat by Darvel, their away record is pretty poor. And I don't say that changes tomorrow, but they've got to have some kind of performance. And again, like I said, this could be a potential job interview for Barry Robson. I don't think he'll get the job, but if he does well tomorrow, then the Aberdeen board might just think, do you know what? This might be worth a chance at the end of the season.
Barry Robson says no one is estimating the size of the challenge that we face, but we do go into every game positively and in confident mood. And that's the thing, Graham, because, I mean, deep down you might think, well, we're going to get beat here, but I mean, look what happened to Packet Thistle. You know, you've got to go there and believe it as well. And you know, it sounds as though that when Barry Robson's saying that they might have a go.
Again, it's like I said earlier, you've got to try and get that kind of fine line between defending and having a go. It's difficult, especially at Celtic Park. And I know we've done these shows in the last few weeks, but I honestly, genuinely can't believe how far Aberdeen have dropped. You know, they really have had such a poor, since they came back for the World Cup break, they've been so poor. And their away form has been terrible. And I don't see that changing tomorrow, I'll be honest. But I think Barry Robson, you know, they beat Motherwell, I think it was the week before last, before the Cup game, and they did well in that game. They played well. Now, yes, Motherwell weren't great, but Aberdeen were much better in that game. They had a game plan, they had a system that they stuck to. And actually, I think Barry Robson speaks very well. I think he comes across very, very well. And I suppose if you're Jim Goodwin, you're looking at a Motherwell game thinking, well, why didn't you do that for me? So maybe it shows how poor Jim Goodwin was. And again, if Aberdeen can go to Celtic Park tomorrow and put in a performance, even if they don't win, if they can show something that the Aberdeen folk can be proud of, then I'm sure Aberdeen fans will be happy with that. They know they're probably not going to win tomorrow, but you just never know. You know, football, as they say, is a funny old game. But for Barry Robson, it's a massive opportunity to make a statement tomorrow. I generally don't know who's going to get the Aberdeen job. And I wish Dave was on the night because I'd love to see what he thinks, but I don't know who's going to get that job. There's a lot of folk out there that I'm sure would be happy to take the job, but I just don't know who's going to get it.
Is it me or else are they taking their time over this job? But in saying that, they've got to take as much time as they can because, you know, the last two failed. And I just saw a thing online that former Scotland and Celtic manager Gorgon Strachan is the bookie's favourite to be the next Aberdeen manager.
I don't think he would go. I don't think he would take that job now. I think he's probably quite happy being out of it. But it would be a massive coup for Aberdeen. But they have to get this right. As you've just said, they've got the last two appointments wrong. Stephen Glass failed. Jim Goodwin failed, which I'm surprised about because I thought Goodwin was a good appointment. But it just turned out spectacularly bad. So I think Dave Cormack has to get this one right. If he fails again, 3 managers in a row, that would be an absolute disaster. And I think probably folk are starting to ask questions of Dave Cormack. They need to get this one right. They can't afford to fail, but I genuinely don't know who's going to get it. I mean, as I say, these next couple of games could be massive for Barry Robson. If he does well in them, maybe it might be a chance to give him the job to the end of the season and then maybe look at who's available. But, I know from Motherwell, for example, I know we'll talk about that later, but they were looking at like Grant McCann and Ian Holloway. I'm surprised that Ian Holloway has not been linked with Aberdeen.
Yeah. Is Goggins Kraken's not at Dundee anymore, Graham?
I know he was doing stuff for them. I don't know if he's still there anymore or not.
Yeah, no, that surprises me. But I mean that would be a good shout, Goggins Kraken. But he's been out of management too long. In fact, was his last job at Celtic? Or was it Scotland and then Celtic? Yeah, I can't remember. So yeah, he's been out of a job too long. But you never know. He could take his son with him at Celtic as well. But there you go.
I think what Aberdeen fans want is someone that's going to kind of unite the crowd, because clearly there seems to be there's a bit of a disconnect now between the players and the fans. They need to get a manager that's going to. They need to get a manager that's going to be, the fans are going to get behind. So they can't afford to get this wrong. As I've just mentioned, they've got a fantastic support in Aberdeen. They really need to get this appointment right. So maybe that's why Dave Cormack's taking his time and thinking, right, I need to get the right person here. Who that's going to be, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see who they get in.
And I think as well, Graham, I mentioned this on the show as well, that Aberdeen fans are not going to buy for the second season in a row, not finishing in the top six.
No, I mean, that would be, and I'm not convinced they're going to get top six, to be honest. I think I said this before, I think it'll be Celtic, Rangers, Hearts. I think St Mirren will be in there. I think Livingston will be in there. And another, it might not be Aberdeen.
Yeah, I've already written of Aberdeen for top six, Graham.
I can understand why. I mean, as I say, they're away. If it wasn't for the home form, they've been a relegation battle. Their away form has been so poor. It's probably not going to change tomorrow, but after you get Celtic out the way, then maybe you can get a run. But again, they're just not consistent enough. Before the World Cup, they were sitting quite happily third in the league, and now they're down in seventh. It's been an absolutely spectacular fail, and I think that's why Dave Cormack's taking his time thinking, I need to get this right. I need to get the right appointment. But Aberdeen, there is no doubt, they are a big club. And I know that a lot of folks say, they're living off past glories, but they are a big club. You just look at the fan base. So they've got to get an appointment that's going to unite the fans. And I think who that's going to be, I do not know. But I'm interested to see what they do. Because, as you rightly said there, if they don't finish top six again, it's a spectacular failure.
Would you say that if an Aberdeen manager comes in on Monday, it's to work with a team, build a team for next season, because their season's basically finished?
Yeah, I mean, I think their season was pretty much over after they lost to Derby, to be honest. That was a huge letdown. And again...
And by the way, they took a big support down to Derby as well.
They did, but the thing is, even though it was obviously a massive shock, it wasn't a shock, because a lot of folk thought this could be an upset here. So it wasn't to be a massive shock, but the way that they got beat, there was nothing about them. There was no passion, there was no energy, there was no desire. All of that was Darvel, not Aberdeen. So if they bring a manager on a Monday, obviously he's not got a transfer window. He's got to work with what he's got, but it'll be a good chance for whoever comes in to see who he's wanting to keep in the summer, who he wants to get rid of, who he can work with. I think Graham Shinney might go back to because he's only on loan. He might go back. So there's a few players on the Aberdeen side that, I think for me, I'm definitely keeping Duke. I'm keeping Majowski. That's probably the two that I'm keeping just now. I think Leighton Clarkson will go back. Again, he's on loan. There's a few players on the Aberdeen side that'll probably go. I think defensively, again, I think Dave's mentioned this as well. Defensively, Jayden Stewart and Richardson have not been good enough. And I think given that captaincy to Stewart was a very poor decision, in my opinion. He was never a captain, and he's not even a very good defender.
And that for Celtic tomorrow will be just... Is it just a case of ticking off all the games till the end of the season, Graham?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they'll want to keep on winning, obviously, because they know that if they drop points, which I don't think they will, then Rangers, although they're not playing well, they are winning. So, and I think there's still 2 or 4 games left to come.
Yeah.
So they just need to keep on winning, and I think they will. You know, and the thing is, it doesn't really matter if Celtic don't play well because they're still winning. And I think even last week they maybe weren't at their best against St Mirren, but they still scored 5 goals. So it just goes to show what this Celtic team is capable of. And again, this was mentioned before, and I think I might have said it, or Dave might have, or maybe even you. I honestly think that Celtic could do another Dundee United and hammer somebody 9-0 again. They've got that in them. Could that be tomorrow? I don't know, but I think they've got that in them.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very kind of interesting game, and we'll see how that one pans out. Celtic against Aberdeen. Let's move on now to Dundee United against Johnson. Now, when I was preparing the show, Graham, I'm itching to say it's a Newfound derby, but I know how I get into trouble by Dave saying that the last time, but also I think you said something as well. Did you not say it's more like Aberdeen against whoever? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, it used to be Aberdeen Dundee United was a Newfound derby.
Yeah, well, you can show I'm getting old now. I'm past my 20s now, so just 20 stone. So Dundee United against St Johnstone tomorrow, and looking at the league table, Dundee United's bottom. St Johnstone is lying in 8th. So, I mean, are you surprised that Dundee United got the way their season's going?
A little bit. I think they've shown signs under Liam Fox that they are a decent side. You know, they'll be disappointed about their cup defeat to come on it last week. I didn't think they really showed enough last week. And defensively, they were very poor. Obviously, the new lad, got sent off on his debut for 2 really daft challenges, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think United, I was surprised because I did say that I thought they would win last week, but they were very, very poor. They just didn't do enough. And again, Stephen Fletcher, who I think is a really good signing, wasn't great last week. So yeah, they've been kind of up and down a little bit. I said this before against Hearts the week before, they were very impressive and didn't deserve to get beat 3-1. So they have had ups and downs, and obviously this is the return of Nicky Clark to Tannadice, now playing for St Johnstone. So
yeah.
You know what tends to happen. Old player goes back to their old place, and they're going to score. So that'll probably happen tomorrow. But it is one of these games that is very hard to predict. I don't want to say that I think St Johnstone will win because I said that United won last week and they got beat. So it's a difficult game. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends a draw, but I think St Johnstone have kind of picked up a little bit of form. They've actually been quite impressive. So yeah, I think it'll be a close game, but I think if you're United, you need to be looking for better than last week because I just thought they were a bit off the pace last week, and I thought there was a lot of long balls. There wasn't really a lot of creativity about them, and I think they're a better side than I think I said this last week. They're a better side than the league position shows, and they've kind of got to show that now.
I think that goes for St Johnstone as well, Graham.
Yeah, and actually I was looking at something earlier on, and I didn't actually realise this, that Callum Davidson is now the longest serving manager in the top flight. Robin Nielsen's the second longest serving, which is mental, to be honest. And when we consider, not that long ago, there was talk about Davidson getting sacked, having won 2 trophies and finishing top 6. So I think Callum Davidson did a very good job. And I just think, I don't know how, I say this a lot, but again, the signing of Nicky Clark, I think has been a massive signing for them. I think St Johnstone will probably climb the table. Tomorrow's a massive, massive game. United, I think, need to win this. I think they're at home. So they need to pick up points at home. They'll want to be better than they were last week. And again, I thought there was a decent crowd at Tannadice last week. I think United can do better to get a better home crowd in. But it's a massive game. I do think I say this about Motherwell as well. Motherwell rely on Van Veen. I think at times United are a bit too over-reliant on Stephen Fletcher. I'm a massive fan of Dylan Levitt. I think Levitt's a good player. I think Glenn Middleton's a good player. I think he was at St Johnstone as well. So there's a lot of players facing the former club tomorrow. So that will have a bit of a say as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I was going to ask you a question, but we might be here for hours. What's actually went wrong for Dundee United? Do you think it's going back to the Jack Ross days and the European games and all that? I know it's moved on, but,
Well, again, we did that. So I was going to say, we did that show after Dundee United beat AZ Alkmaar in the first game at Tannadice, and United were very good. I thought they were outstanding that day. Then they go and get beat 7-0, and it just goes downhill from there. That 9-0 hammering by Celtic, I think they took a lot of time to recover from that. When Liam Fox got the job, I wasn't overly sure he was going to be a good appointment. And I actually think he's done all right. As I say, I think I can see what he's trying to do. I think he's done okay. I was surprised they didn't maybe sign a few more players in the January window. They only really brought in Ayuna, not really a big signing. But I think I can see signs. As I say, I keep going back to this game at Tynecastle against Hearts a couple of weeks ago, but that first half, United played some really good stuff. They were very slick. They were good on the ball. They played a lot of attacking stuff. And they were very unlucky not to be 2 or 3 up by half time. They just couldn't. They weren't clinical enough. So I think I can see what Liam Fox is trying to do, but they've got to start picking up wins because I do still think, although I think Motherwell are going to go down, I think United are going to be in and around that kind of second bottom place. They need to pick up points. And I think at home especially, you've got to win your home games. If you win your home games, you give yourself half a chance.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's very difficult to pick a winner out of this game, as you were saying, Graham, because they're both, I mean, not by the recent form, but on a day they're decent sides to watch.
Yeah, and again, I think before the cup game last week, St Johnstone played Celtic, got beat 4-1. But again, in that game, I thought St Johnstone showed some decent sides. I think Dre Wright looks a decent signing for them. A really good goal against Celtic as well. So there are good players in that St Johnstone side, but again, they are like most teams in this league, apart from Celtic, Rangers, and maybe Hearts. They are very inconsistent. They just don't put enough wins together, and in this league, it is very difficult to do. So I think there are signs that St Johnstone are going to be. I don't think they'll be in trouble. I think they'll be absolutely fine. I don't think they'll be top 6. I think they'll probably be around maybe 8th or so, which is not a bad season for St Johnstone considering how poorly they did last season. But I do think that Stevie May and Nicky Clark are going to be a massive part of why they'll stay up.
See, when I'm going off on the tangent here, Glenn, but this is what I do quite a lot, right? But see, when you look at the league table now, right? See the bottom 6 teams, right? You would say that they are kind of like top 6 teams. So it's a kind of like funny season because like Dundee and like even Kilmarnock, they come up this season, but I mean they're still a big team. Motherwell's a big team. St Johnstone and Aberdeen, and both all the teams that's in the bottom half. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, St Mirren fans or Livingston fans, but the smaller teams are in the top half. So it's a bit of a funny season.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that how tight this league can be. I think if you take out the top 3, although Hearts aren't maybe that far ahead in 3rd place, we do still have a very good squad. I think if you take out Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts, the rest of that league is very, very tight and very, very compact. Anyone can beat anybody. So it is a very difficult league. I think all it takes is like a couple of wins and you can be, if you're 9th, for example, all it takes is a couple of wins and you can be up to 5th or 6th. It is such a tight league. And that's kind of what makes, I think, the league decent. I know that maybe Georgios Giakoumakis and that maybe wouldn't agree with that. But I think at times that it can be a very competitive league. And I think the game tomorrow, it might not be great on the eye, but it'll be competitive. And I think United and St Johnstone, they are potentially big teams. Maybe don't have the biggest supports, but they are two bigger teams. And I just think you look at that top six, and as I say, St Mirren, I think will be in the top six. I do think Livingston will be in the top six. And then it's another from that kind of bottom part. Hibs potentially, I'm not convinced. But it is very, very tight in that league. It is very compact. And as I've said before as well, whoever goes down is going to find it very hard to come back up, i.e. Motherwell, potentially Dundee United. They'll find it very hard to come back up because that championship, you do not want to be in that league. It's a horrible league to get out of.
Yeah, I mean, taking away the league form, Dundee United and St Johnstone are decent cup teams because Dundee United was in the Scottish Cup final maybe like 3 or 4 times a few seasons ago, and obviously St Johnstone won the double. So
Yeah, I mean, I think if you asked any St Johnstone fan, do you think you won a cup double in the space of like a few months, they're going, nah, no chance. I mean, that, let's be honest, for St Johnstone, you're not going to get better than that. You're not going to win the league. All you've got is a chance to win the cups. They've done that. You've played in European football. There is not much more that Callum Davidson can probably do with that squad. And I think he's done a very good job. I really do. On the fact that he's not got a big budget, I think he's done a very good job. I know that, as I said, there was a lot of talk about him potentially getting sacked. I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad that they gave him a chance because it does. I think Robin Nielsen said it today earlier on about Motherwell. All it takes is 2 or 3 results and folk want you gone. You don't really get a lot of time. You don't get a lot of time. As soon as you get beat, as Dave would say, it's get him out the door. It is very difficult. And I think I have to give credit to Jeff Brown. I've said this before, to keep Davidson in when a lot of St Johnstone fans might have said, nah, get rid of him. They are very, very good in the cup. They are decent at home, but it's just about getting that consistency. And as I say, it's unless you're Celtic or Rangers, it is very hard to be consistent in this league because all it takes is, as Aberdeen have found out, 3 or 4 defeats and you're out the door.
Let's move on to the Hibs Kilmarnock game. And when I talk about Hibs now, well, I know what you're going to say as a Hearts fan. I can't believe the difference in Lee Johnson because, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, Glenn, we were on the show saying that it's either Jim Goodwin or Lee Johnson getting his P45 El Sakio, I think we were calling the game. And then ever since then, Hibs are a different team now. So Lee Johnson's job is safe for the time being. But what a turnaround it's been at Easter Road.
It's a funny old game, isn't it? Yeah, and also I think Josh Campbell just signed a new deal as well. He's been very impressive for him recently, so fair play to that.
And good thing Mickey Devlin as well.
Potentially a good signing, actually. He's a decent defender. They obviously need somebody to cover for Ryan Porteous. I think it's just a short-term deal, but I'm sure if it does well, he might stay. So, yeah, I think Hibs have been... there was a lot of pressure. After they got beat by Hearts in the Cup, there was a lot of Hibs fans saying Johnson has to go. So that Aberdeen game might be a turning point. I think they're on a 4 or 5 game beaten run now. I think at times I'm still not convinced about Lee Johnson as a manager. I think, again, some of the things he comes out with are... I think even yesterday, I think he said that they can emulate Hearts going at European football.
I mean, they're lying 5th in the table, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, they are picking up, and I hope there's no Kilmarnock fans watching. I think Hibs will win tomorrow. I think Kilmarnock are very up and down. I think Hibs at home are decent. I know that Hearts did beat them in the Cup, but Hibs are decent at home. So they'll be full of confidence going into this game. They've obviously had a break for the Cup last week, which they weren't in. What a shame. So, yeah, they'll be looking to get back to winning ways tomorrow, and I think they will. I think they'll beat Kilmarnock probably quite comfortably. But yeah, Hibs do look now a better side, and considering the fact that obviously they've still not got Martin Boyle, Kevin Nisbet was injured. I think he's back now, so they are looking a lot better. Again, can they burst into that top 6? I'm still not sure. I'm really not sure I'm not sure what I think about Hibs just now. And this isn't being biased. I'm just not. Again, I think they are very up and down. But I do think at home tomorrow against Kilmarnock, Kilmarnock are one of these teams, they won last week, they were very good. They then get hammered out before that. I came into it against, but they got beat 3-1, I think it was. So they are very up and down. I'm not sure about Derek McInnes yet, if he's doing a good job or not. So it is a game that I think he'll win tomorrow. And, Lee Johnson now is getting a little bit of a I tune out some of these players, and as I said, I think Josh Campbell has been very impressive for Hibs recently. He's probably one of the better players, to be honest. So it's no surprise that he's still in a new contract. But I do think Hibs will win tomorrow. I just think Kilmarnock, for me, I'm just not convinced by them.
And I think, Graham, am I right in saying that this might be the first season for a wee while that you might get an Edinburgh derby after the split?
Yeah, it's not happened very often.
Yeah.
Obviously, last season it didn't happen because Hibs were in the bottom six. So, yeah, it could potentially happen. And I think that would probably be at Easter Road, I think, as well, if it is the case. So, yeah, I mean, Hibs have done okay recently. You know, they have kind of picked up. To be honest, even in the cup game against Hearts, I thought they actually were unlucky, which sounds bizarre to say, but I thought they played all right in that game, but Hearts were just clinical. So Hibs do have that. Hibs are a decent side. You know, I don't think I've ever come on the show and been horrible about Hibs. I do try and be kind of balanced here. So I think they've been absolutely fine. And if they can get in the top six, then fair play to Lee Johnson, because he was under massive, massive pressure. I mean, there's a lot of Hibs fans are probably still not convinced by him, but they have picked up. And, you know, I don't think anybody... I did think they beat Aberdeen. I didn't think they win 6-0, but I did think they would win that game. So that took a lot of pressure off. And then they've been on a decent run since then. And I think maybe having that break for the Cup last week might be a good thing, because they'll be up for this tomorrow. And again, the Hibs fans, I think, are turning out in force tomorrow. And as I say, I do think they'll beat Kilmarnock, because Kilmarnock are, for me, I just don't see enough about Kilmarnock.
Lee Johnson said today that it's a very important game and one we're looking forward to. Team news, you mentioned Kevin Nisbet there. He said that he's got a 50-50 chance of making the game. And he was speaking about Mickey Devlin. He's actually signed to the end of the season, Graham. So be interesting. His opponent, manager Derek McInnes, said that Christian Doig is unavailable, obviously, because he's on loan from the High Bees. And team news is Ash Taylor is back in training. He was speaking about the game as well. He said this will be a tough game. Hibs are a very good squad, and they've got good form going into tomorrow's game. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't see. Never know if it was a final game. And if you put it better yourself when you say if it was a final game, but I can't do that better accents than you, Graham. But I can only see a Hibs win tomorrow.
I'm going to go on my soapbox here, right? Now, anyone who's watching this, you can disagree if you want. Michael, you can disagree as well. But now you've mentioned something you've mentioned something actually now which actually quite annoys me. See this whole thing about not having one of your players playing against you. Like Christian Doig can't play for Kilmarnock tomorrow, right? The thing is, and this is for any team who lets a player go on loan, you didn't want the guy you've let go on loan. So obviously Hibs didn't want Christian Doig. They've let him go on loan, but he can't play tomorrow because he's on loan. I just find that really stupid. If you didn't want the guy, don't let him go on loan. I think you should be allowed to play no matter who you're playing against. I've never agreed with that. If you didn't want the guy, then don't let him go. So I think the fact that Christian Doig can't play tomorrow, he can't do his job because he's on loan from Hibs. I don't agree with that at all. I think that rule should be scrapped.
Yeah, I've actually never thought about that before, and it's a brilliant topic, and I'm not going to agree with you. So if you've got any comments, you can make on that on YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, you're right, Glenn, because if you are in any other job, you would be doing your best to your ability in that job. If you see what I mean, and football's not any different.
I just don't see the point of you letting somebody go on loan and then they can't play against you because you're afraid of what they'll do to you. Well, don't let them go on loan then. You've let them go out because you've let them go out alone because they weren't going to play for you. But then you stopped Kilmarnock letting him play against Hibs because he's on loan. I just think it's a really stupid rule. I really do.
Is that not the same? Well, maybe a wee bit different, but is that not the same when Mickey Clark comes in for St Johnson and scores a winning goal against Dundee United?
Yeah, but again, you didn't. If you didn't want the guy, you wouldn't let him go on loan.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really ridiculous idea that I think you're denying Christian Deutsch a chance to play because he's on loan for the club that you're playing against. I've never agreed with that rule. It's the same thing with Hearts as well. Like if we let, I'm just going to take it for example, like Ewan Henderson, he's on loan just now, but he's in the Championship. But say he had gone to, actually, let's just say he went on loan to Motherwell. I wouldn't have a problem with him playing against Hearts on Sunday because, we didn't want him. So just let the guy do his job, let him play. You're denying the guy a chance to play football because you've let him go on loan. I've never agreed with that rule. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, I mean, it's the same in cup football because you've heard of players not playing for their team because they're cup tag and all that, even though they're on loan, Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but that is a good point, Glenn, that you've kind of made and all that, But yeah, it is a bit of a stupid rule,
It's just something that I thought about when you mentioned Christian Deutsch. I just think that's daft that he can't play because you're worried what he might do tomorrow. Well, don't let him go on loan then. You've let him go on loan because you didn't want him.
But in saying that, it's like this is not a Scottish thing, Glenn, because it happens across the board. But yeah, you're right. It's still a bit of a stupid rule.
Honestly, I think it's something that should be scrapped. I really do. If the guy comes back and scores against you, well, that's your own fault. You let him go on loan. I just think because he can play against everyone else, but because you let him go, he can't play against you. I've just never agreed with that rule. You're stopping a guy doing his job, that he's paid well to do, and because you're worried what he might do against you, I just think it's a really daft rule. I've never agreed with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't, because like you're doing a job. Like if you were moving jobs, but you were only on that job for like 2 months, and like you were leaving your job like you're in the now to do that, you wouldn't. It just seems a bit daft to me, the whole situation.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you wouldn't do that in any other job but football. I just think it's a really daft rule. I do feel sorry for folk that do that.
It's a bit like Andy Murray playing against Great Britain in the tennis if he's moved to America. If you know what I mean by that. And it could only happen in tennis because tennis is, am I right in saying, well, cricket as well and all that, but like tennis has only got like the Davis Cup. So like if Andy Murray was going away to say tomorrow playing in Australia and they were playing Great Britain in a one-off game and like the winner takes all, what they're saying is Andy Murray's not allowed to play because he's Davis Cup tied.
The other thing is, right, if Christian Deutsch has signed permanently for Kilmarnock, then he could play against Hibs anyway because he signed permanently. But because he's on loan, he can't play against you. So I just think it's a really pointless rule.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes back to Mickey Clark, right? If he was on loan to St Johnson from Dundee United, he wouldn't be able to play. But if he was signed, he would play and score the winning goal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's absolutely pointless.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's why you're on the show, Glenn. Well done.
I did wonder why I was on this show.
Yeah, 50 pence more in your pay packet this week. So that'll bring you up to 55. Talking about 55, I don't know if I've opened a can of worms when I'm saying that, Glenn, but we're moving on to Rangers.
What a seamless link that is.
So, yeah. So the Celtic fans. Yeah. That was actually very good. I actually enjoyed that.
I've got to say, for you, that was quite impressive.
Yeah. I was going to say high five, but that didn't work. And Penny could back and get it. I don't know. You can email me later. Livingston against Rangers. If you didn't know what I was talking about, the Livingston against Rangers. Before we get into the game, let's speak about what the manager said. David Martindale said that he was asked about the game tomorrow. He said, Michael has given an incredible job, but my focus is on Livingston and how we can take points off them. But it's going to be a very difficult game. Michael Beale said John Lundstrom has a 50-50 chance of making the game. So Ryan Jack. And basically, he was talking about the game. It's a difficult game, and the pitch could be a difficult, but I like going there. We take a huge number of Rangers fans, but we know that David will have us team up for the game, and we need to go there and put a strong performance in to win. Graham, this is the last team to take points off of Rangers at Ibrox. I mean, I think Livingston scored what was it, 4 minutes that time, and Rangers scored with 50 minutes to go. And I think was Gio not the manager still at Rangers at that point in time?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, we'll speak about the park in a minute because Michael Beale said about the park could be a bit of a level in that game. But before we speak about Livingston, what about, before we speak about Rangers, what do you think of Livingston going into this game?
Again, they've had a very good season. I say it a lot that David Martindale is such a good manager, but they were very poor against Inverness in the Cup last week. That was a huge surprise. Getting beat 3-0 by Inverness. Cali, take nothing away from Cali, they were brilliant. But that was a massive letdown for David Martindale, and I'm sure that he'll be looking for a reaction tomorrow. And again, everyone knows that Ammanville is not an easy place to go. And I know that I think there was a comment as well by Joel Newbley, who's looking forward to this game. I think Newbley could cause Rangers a lot of problems. I'm sure the last time that Newbley played against Rangers at Ammanville, I'm sure that John Stewart might have played in that game. And Newbley was probably the last game he played. And Newbley was brilliant that day. He ragdolled that Rangers defence. So he'll be a massive player for them tomorrow. I think Rangers probably will sneak it, but it's a really difficult game. And if anybody can take points off Rangers, it could be Livingston. You know what? They've already spoke about the pitch. We speak about it a lot of times on this show. It is a potential leveller. It's going to be a huge game, but I have a feeling that Rangers might just sneak it. But Livingston will be a massive threat tomorrow because they have to be better than last week. Because that game, David Martindale knows himself, that performance against Inverness was not good enough.
I'm sure, Graham, that Joe Newbley scored against Rangers. Remember a couple of seasons ago, and Rangers won, was it 4-1? But Livingston was 1-1 now at half time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes teams go to a place and it is difficult. Rangers do find, and a lot of teams find going to Ammanville difficult. And you are right, I think the last time Rangers played Livingston, they drew 1-1. And I'm sure Livingston had a man sent off in that game as well. But they held out for a 1-1 draw. So David Martindale knows how to set his teams up. And it'll be a very difficult game tomorrow. And if Rangers are going to drop points, this might be what it is. I think they might just sneak it. But it's going to be a huge game. And I honestly, right now, wouldn't be surprised if Livingston did take something tomorrow. Because I think they'll be a lot better than they were last week against Inverness.
Do you think it'll feel like a home game for Rangers tomorrow? Because obviously they'll have 3 sides of the ski game.
Yeah, and again, that really annoys me. That again, you're selling out your home ground to away fans. I never think that's a good thing, and it probably will. You know, it's the same thing that happened at I think McDermott Park as well. And you know, it's not great. I don't think it's not a great look for Scottish football. If I'm an outsider looking in, and I'm looking at that game thinking, where's all the Livingston fans? And it's just full of Rangers fans. It doesn't look great. So yeah, it will be like a home game for Rangers. But I think David Martindale will have his team up for this game. I think Joe Newbley, as I say, will be a huge threat tomorrow. He's capable of causing that Rangers defence a lot of problems. And they'll be looking for a reaction after last week. And you do tend to find that when teams have a disappointing game one week, they do bounce back the next week. And Livingston fans will hope for that tomorrow, because that game against Inverness was a huge, huge shock. They weren't good enough, and the goals they lost were so poor. Spoke about this last week. The goals they lost were very poor.
And you've got to ask yourself, Graham, another week, and yeah, we're going to speak about it. David Martindale's not even spoken about for the Aberdeen and Motherwell job. Are you still surprised at that?
Yeah, I am. And I think I saw an Aberdeen fan on Twitter saying that he wouldn't want David Martindale. I just think he would be a great manager for Aberdeen. You know, he would get what he's done at Livingston on a shoestring budget has been incredible. And I think he would get that Aberdeen team up for it every week. They would know what they were going to be doing. I think he's just a very enthusiastic manager. We all know about his past, but he's such an enthusiastic guy. And I think Livingston are sitting fourth just now, which for them is incredible. So I think he would get the best out of the Aberdeen side. And at Aberdeen, he would have more money to spend as well. Maybe not a lot, but he would have more money than he's got at Livingston. And I think he would get a fantastic reaction.
And I think a bigger fan base as well, Graham.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised as well if he went to Aberdeen, if a guy like Joe Newbley went with him. You know, I think he would take maybe 2 or 3 Livingston players with him. And you know what you're going to get? You're going to get a team that's full of energy, full of passion. They're going to work for each other. Aberdeen need that, because they are sadly lacking that. And maybe not a surprise that Martindale's not mentioned for the Motherwell job, but the Aberdeen job. I said this last week. I would absolutely think he'd be a great fit for Aberdeen. And I'm surprised that David Cormack maybe isn't going down that route.
And as for Rangers, Graham, that Michael Beale said the pitch could be a bit of a leveler. But when listening to your comments about the loan deal, you know, like it's a bit like the same. Like this is the Premiership. There shouldn't be any plastic parts about. And Livingston's the worst one, because obviously you've got Livingston and Hibs and another team I can't remember offhand. Is it? I might come back to me in a minute. But I mean, so do you think the park will be a bit of a leveler tomorrow?
I think it could be. You know what? The thing is, everyone's played at Ammanville. They know what the pitch is like. And actually, I thought the Hamilton pitch last week for a plastic pitch was a lot better than Livingston's one.
Oh, was that the one I was thinking of, Graham?
Yeah, I'm sure there was. Pitch.
I'm sure there was one more in the Premiership. No,
I can't think on the top of my head. Not, but that Hamilton pitch looked a lot better than the Livingston pitch. I just don't think Livingston's surface looks particularly great. A lot of players seem to slide on it quite a lot, but as I say, everyone's been there plenty of times. You know what to expect. And I think against the David Martindale sides, I think the pitch is the least of your worries. You've got to get past a very stubborn Livingston team, and they will be 100% up for this week. As I said, they'll know that performance against Inverness was not good enough, and they'll give Rangers a fright tomorrow. I think it could be an entertaining game. To be honest, I'm actually quite happily surprised that this game wasn't selected for the game on Sky on Sunday rather than Motherwell Hearts. I'm glad the Hearts game's on TV, but I thought that game might have been on TV. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game.
I think it could be a decent. What are you doing, Graham, to me? If this was the FA Cup game this weekend, well,
probably, yeah.
Good say.
I mean, I just think this game has potential to be a good game tomorrow. It could be an interesting game. As you say, there'll be another massive Rangers turnout. Not so much Livingston, but yeah, it could be a really good game tomorrow. And as I say, I think if any team can take points off of Rangers, it might well be Livingston.
And I mean, Livingston's got the advantage, Glenn, because they train on that every day of the week, including match days as well.
Yeah, and I just think I do like what David Martindale's done with this team. You know, I think Bruce Anderson's been a really good player for them. Scott Pittman's been excellent for them as well. They've got a lot of really good players in that Livingston team who probably, again, like their manager, don't get the credit they deserve. I think they've got a very, very good squad of players there. And for them to be sitting fourth, I think is a fantastic achievement. They could easily be pushing for European football, which, again, would be absolutely fantastic. And I think I've said this before. I think, again, David Martindale for me is bigger than Livingston. He deserves a bigger club. He's a very, very good manager. And again, I just think tomorrow they could give Rangers probably one of their most difficult tests so far, apart from Partick last week, because Partick were excellent for most of that game.
Honestly, I'm very surprised that David Martindale's not even mentioned in the running for the Aberdeen and Motherwell job. But as we say here every week, Graham, what does he have to do to get a bigger job?
I don't think there's much more he can do. I mean, he's getting the best out of what he's got on a shoestring budget. He tries to play decent football. Is actually the signs that he makes are very good. There's very few that he seems to get wrong. And you know, when you play against Livingston, you're going to get a team that's going to work really, really hard. And I think that's something that David Martindale wants in his team. And as I say, for Aberdeen, that's something that I don't really see a lot of players that are working hard enough. As I say, look at the Darvel game, there was nothing. The Hibs game, there was nothing. The Hearts game, they were maybe unfortunate to lose that game the way they did, like 5-0 was probably very harsh. But I think David Martindale would instill a lot more on that Aberdeen side, a lot more kind of mentality. And just the way that he comes across as well, he's always very honest. Whether they lose or they win, he always speaks very honestly. And I think it's actually a breath of fresh air to hear him speak.
And what surprises me, Graham, is when you listen to him every week, I watch his press conferences every week now, it doesn't seem to be that bothered. If you see what I mean, obviously if they were talking about him getting the Motherwell job or the Aberdeen job or any team, it just looks to be just happy to be involved in the game.
I think he does, and that absolutely shows. You know, you get that passion from him. You get every time he speaks, you listen to him, and obviously he was raging that he's obviously team talk for the Stenhouse-Muir game that they were getting beat 1-0 and got leaked to the press. He wasn't happy about that, but even then he wasn't raging, he wasn't angry, he was just disappointed. So he has that kind of demeanour about him, but I don't think he would want to get on the wrong side of David Martindale. I think he has that kind of that fireness about him that I quite like. And I'm gonna be honest here, right? And I know any Hearts fans watching this won't agree with me. But see, if and when Robbie was to go, I would have no problem with David Martindale taking over at Hearts, because I think he's the kind of manager that I would love to see. Someone that's got that passion and desire about him. And I think he gets the best out of those players. And having like that Hearts fan base behind him, having more money, I would love to see what he could do with a better squad and more money behind him. Because what he's done with that Livingston squad has been incredible.
And I think as well, Graham, you might agree with me. In fact, you will agree with me here. If he goes away to that in the summer, sorry, Livingston fans, if you're watching, it will be to a Scottish club. And to be honest with you, that I'm gonna be honest for a minute, as I always do on the show. I don't think you'll ever see David Martindale in England, because, again, controversial for me to say this, but I just feel English football is very snobby when it comes to Scottish football.
Oh, 100% is. I mean, let's be honest, nobody out with Scotland cares about Scottish football. I think that was shown. You know, Ryan Porteous went to Watford and straight away it's like, oh, I'm playing a better league now.
I mean, you just have to look at Aaron Thompson when they played for Celtic. He only get 2 caps for England, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of very poor teams in England. Let's be honest. Even at Championship level, there's a lot of poor teams. I think David Martindale could easily go. Yeah. He's not gonna get a job in the English Premiership, but he could easily get a job in the English Championship and be better than a lot of those managers in there. Now I know that like Grant McCann has been touted for the Motherwell job here. Now he's been in England for a long, long time. He will find it very tough if he gets that job. I know we'll talk about Motherwell shortly, but I just think, again, David Martindale would do a very good job at Motherwell, but I think he's bigger than Motherwell. I think he is. I think he's a very good Aberdeen man. I think he would be a very good Aberdeen manager. He would be a very good manager for Motherwell, but I think he's better than that. So yeah, I've got absolutely no doubt that if David Martindale went to the English Championship, he would do just as good a job as he is here.
And no disrespect to the English media, but if you say to them about Livingston, they'll be looking at you a bit funny to say, I've never heard of them before.
They couldn't
But,
find Livingston. They wouldn't be able to find Livingston on a map. Let's be honest. They wouldn't.
yeah.
They wouldn't know who Livingston were.
Well, if you put Livingston beside Gatesville Bragg, it will just be a big, massive roundabout. Let's face it, Graham. Yeah.
That's all Livingston is, just a big, massive roundabout.
Yeah. So before we come on to talk about the big game on Sunday, Murrow against Hearts, let's speak about St Mirren against Ross County. Now, a surprising result during the week against Murrow, Graham, but they've got to bounce back.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those results again I didn't see coming. St Mirren have been very, very good. That was a huge letdown. Obviously, Robinson going back to his old club, getting beat, and there wasn't a lot in the match, to be honest. It was very, very, very scrappy. I thought the goals that St Mirren lost were very poor, especially the second goal was just a ball over the top. And I don't think Johnson's trying to shoot. I think that's a cross and it goes in the net. It's poor goalkeeping for me. Shouldn't be getting caught out for there. But yeah, St Mirren were disappointing. They will be looking to bounce back. And what better way to bounce back than a home game against Ross County, who again, I think are very up and down. But I do like the way that Malcolm Mackay tries to get his team to play. I think, again, we talked about this during the trans window show. Signing Simon Murray from Queen's Park is a major signing for them. I can see him probably starting tomorrow. So, yeah, this is a difficult game. And St Mirren's last home game, they lost to Hibs. They were looking to bounce back from that. So this is another big game. And again, that game on Wednesday was a chance for St Mirren to claw a bit of a gap back on Hearts. They failed to do that, thankfully for me. So, yeah, it's a big, big game. But I do think St Mirren will probably bounce back from that. I think they'll win tomorrow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I saw them last week in Celtic Park, but I also saw them a couple of weeks ago when they went to Celtic as well. And okay, they get beaten both occasions, Graham, but I mean, they put up a good performance as well. I think that the thing I like about the Stephen Robertson side this season is they come and have a go.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say that's the thing. I think Stephen Robinson, as I said, a lot of St Mirren fans maybe at the start of the season weren't convinced by him. I think he's done a very good job. Yes, the last couple of games have been disappointing against Celtic and obviously Wednesday night. But I think a home game against Ross County, they'll be expected to win that game. And I think, again, something that I've said before, I genuinely think that Curtis Main has been a very, very good signing for St Mirren. He's been better than I expected. I think he will probably score tomorrow. So I think fair play to St Mirren. You know, they do set their side. They do set... Robinson does set his sides out to try and win games. So this tomorrow is going to be a big, big game. I think it'll be a difficult game for Ross County. I do think St Mirren will win this. I think it'll be tight. But I do think St Mirren might just sneak this by the odd goal and maybe 2-1, I think.
Yeah, 2-1, Grim says tomorrow. As for Ross County, Graham, I mean, they're in deep bother down at the bottom of the table. But as you said, Simon, I think that's the difference between Ross County going down. I mean, they might end up finishing in the playoff spot, but they'll definitely not go straight down because of Simon Murray.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, obviously they weren't playing last week in the Cup, but the game at Ibrox before that, I thought they were very good in that game. You know, I think they lost 2-1, but they showed a lot of good signs in that game. So I think Malcolm Mackay's got a lot of positivity there, and I do think Simon Murray is going to be a huge signing for them. If they can get him fit and firing, he will absolutely score the goals to keep them up. I think they'll be okay. Simon Murray is going to be a huge signing. You know, he's not scored yet, but I can see the goals coming for him.
And then they go very quickly, Graham, because 20 goals they scored this season.
Yeah, I mean, they really have lacked that goal-scoring threat. But again, in a lot of games that they played this season, they've played well. They just haven't had that killer instinct. Now they've got Simon Murray there and Damon Brophy as well. There's every chance they're going to be absolutely fine now. I think, again, Brophy's been a really good signing for them. He's always impressed me whenever I watched him at Kilmarnock. He's a very, very good player. So, yeah, I think they now have enough to stay up. But it's just trying to get, again, I keep talking about this word consistency. It's about getting that consistency, getting a run of wins together. And if you can do that, you give yourself a massive chance. But I think tomorrow, I just have that feeling that St Mirren might just sneak this one.
And if they do, Graham, that means they'll be back on the winning record again. Because I think the last time they were at home against Hibs, that they get beat 1-0, and up till then, I think St Mirren was 6 games undefeated at home, so
Yeah.
they would want to be back on that kind of bandwagon soon and winning their games, especially the home games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whenever you lose a run, you want to get kind of back on that pretty quickly. And I think they will do that tomorrow. St Mirren have had a fantastic season. There's no doubt about that. They've had a very, very good season. St Mirren, as I said earlier on, I think they will be in the top 6. I don't think they'll probably get any higher than 5th potentially, but they've had an excellent season. And I think if you're Stephen Robinson, you've got to be delighted, because there was a lot of calls at the start of the season after a very poor League Cup game, or run, I should say. There was a lot of calls for him to get sacked. Again, you mentioned last week that there might have been talk about maybe him going back to Motherwell. That's not happened. So, yeah, I think they've had a very, very good season so far. And if they can get back in the winning run, which I think they will tomorrow, then, yeah, I think they've had a very good season.
Okay, let's go on to speak about the game on Sunday. I'm looking forward to this one, actually. Murrow and Hearts, they've been very tight games, because I think that the last twice they've played each other, we've been on the show. Am I right? Because I think it was Fir Park and Tynecastle before.
Yeah, the last time we were on air, we played them, or the last time we were at Fir Park, Hearts beat Motherwell 3-0. We were on air. And to be honest, Motherwell didn't deserve that. Motherwell absolutely battered Hearts that day and just couldn't score. And Hearts pretty much scored with only 3 chances they had. I think it was a double from Alan Forrest and one for Lauren Shanklin. So, yeah, this is going to be a difficult game. Hearts should win this, but it gives me the fear, because Motherwell obviously have not had a great run recently. It was a huge win for them on Wednesday. I thought they might have a new manager by now, but Stuart Kettlewell's still taking over till after this game. This is a big game for Hearts. Whatever happens tomorrow, the results tomorrow, hopefully they'll go away, but this is a big game for Hearts. It's a Motherwell side that they haven't had a great season so far. That win on Wednesday is going to be a huge win for them, but this is a game that Hearts should win. We'll have Lauren Shanklin back after his suspension last week against Hamilton. Josh Ginnelly's out, suspended, unfortunately. So it's a game that Hearts should win, but it's a big, big game. I was thinking about this earlier on, that there's 2 names now I think in the Motherwell hot seat now. Ian Holloway and Grant McCann. I think Ian Holloway would be a fantastic one for Motherwell. I think Holloway would be great for the Premier League. He's a absolutely massive character. To get someone like him in, I think to get Holloway in would be a huge, huge coup. So what Motherwell do now, I don't know. And again, a bit like Barry Robson at Aberdeen, this is a potential job interview for Stuart Kettlewell. If he wins this on the back of that win on Wednesday night, then Motherwell might think, do you know what? Maybe we can give him the job. So it's a huge game for both teams.
And Jack Ross is out there running of the job now at Motherwell.
Yeah, can you hear Motherwell fans breathing their sigh of relief now? Jack Ross getting that job, not a chance.
I was just looking at the Hearts record this season, Graham. That's why they're lying third in the league. 45 goals they scored this season and 12 wins. That's no bad going. I'd say the big 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I talk about consistency. Hearts have been the best of the rest, not just this season, but last season as well. It's fantastic. It's been a fantastic run. And away from home as well is something that we've not been great at recently. And I say this quite a lot, that I do want my teams to play well. But if you're winning games, then that's fine. I thought last week against Hamilton, the first half we were excellent, second half not great, but we won. And I think Sunday's going to be a difficult game. I'm delighted we've got Lauren Shanklin back, 21 goals this season. He's been brilliant. And again, there is talk about Stephen Humphries potentially staying beyond this season, which for me would be a massive signing if we can get him. But it's up to Wigan. If Sean Maloney decides to keep him, there's not much we can do. But I'm really, really pleased with what Hearts have done this season. I'm disappointed with the cup draw. I didn't want Celtic. I would rather a home game against United or Falkirk or something, but it is what it is. But we've had a great run so far, and if we can win on Sunday, it'll be another massive, massive victory on the road to hopefully getting that 3rd spot wrapped up.
Robbie Nielsen said at his press conference when one manager leaves, obviously he's talking about moral situation. He says when one manager leaves, someone else comes in. It's always going to be a difficult period. I watched the Murrow game on Wednesday night against Millen, and they changed their shape and went to a 3-5-2, and were more direct and played well and got the result. So I expect them to stick with that, but that depends on if someone else comes in before that. Obviously, he was talking about if a new manager comes in before the game, what's never going to happen now. So you never know what you're going to get when you play against a team in the interim state, with an interim manager going in. So that is Stuart Kettlewell. Stuart Kettlewell said before, he says, it was a good win in midweek. Now we focus on a very difficult game. I am going to take the key team on Sunday. I like how Hearts play, and they've got a good manager. But my focus is winning the game on Sunday. Graham, this will be a good advert for Scottish football. I know I said I'm
I hope
not
so.
going to. Yeah. So it'll be 5-4 then. So no, it'll be a very entertaining game and a very good advert for Scottish football on the game on Sunday. Hearts are a very consistent season, you would say, again to them. That's 2 seasons in a row they've had a good run at it, and this season obviously they had a bonus of European football.
Yeah, and that for me was always a worry. Having European games and then coming back to the league was always a worry for me. The injuries we've had, obviously Craig Halkett been out, Craig Gunn been out, Benjamin Ingeby been out, Liam Boyce been out, Halliday been out. We've had a lot of injuries, and I think we've coped very well. As I said, before the World Cup break, we were 4 points behind Aberdeen. We're now 10 ahead of them. So I think the run we've had since after the World Cup has been absolutely phenomenal. I can't fault Robbie at all. Yes, there are times I think he does maybe get things wrong, but I can't complain about the fact that we're sitting third again and looking again to have a very good season. And again, I do want to say as well, the Heart support again has been incredible. We initially had, I think it was just over 2,000 tickets sold for Motherwell on Sunday. We sold that out and we've been given more. So I think the crowd we're getting just now is absolutely phenomenal. And our CEO, Andrew McKinley, spoke yesterday about the fact that we've got like over 3,000 on the waiting list for a season ticket. The Heart support has been absolutely incredible. I think the Gog Ultras have played a massive part in that as well, especially the home games. Having them there, like having that kind of singing section there, has been a revelation for me. And Hearts at the moment are, I don't want to say a joy to watch because a lot of games we've not been great at, but we're winning. But I think as a Hearts fan right now, it's been fantastic. I'm loving what we've done so far this season. As I say kind of a lot on the show, that it only ever takes one defeat for Hearts fans to go Robbie out. That's just the way football is, unfortunately. But I think Robbie's been brilliant for us this season. And again, tomorrow's a big game. We've got a lot of big games to come. And I know that next month we've got a double header against Celtic in the league and cup. That's going to go a long way to how this season is going to pan out. If I was given the option right now, if somebody says to me that you play Celtic on the 8th of March in the league and then in the cup on a few games later, if you can have one guarantee, but you can only get one, you can lose the league game but win the cup game, or you can lose the cup game, win the league game. I'm taking winning the cup game every day of the week. I would love to get in the cup. Probably won't happen now, but I think Robert's done a great job. I think I said this last week that I know he's not won anything yet, but he's been one of our most successful managers for a long, long time. His win rate, his win record is fantastic. And yeah, I think as a Hearts fan just now, as a football fan, you always know that poor results are just around the corner, but I'm basking on what we're doing so far. I think we've had a great season. And if we can finish third again, which we look like we're going to do, it would be absolutely fantastic.
And I forgot to say, you happy haircut, Graham. When you're on the webcam, people always notices, what aftershaves you've got on. Well, maybe not that personal, but they notice everything.
I think I've got a lot of people on this thing on these chats that I do like. Azalino might be my favourite now with that comment, and I don't think my wife would agree that I look dapper, but I try my best.
What, to look daft?
No, dapper.
All right, I thought, mate. Right, okay.
Well, I look daft a lot, to be fair. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I've had it for years. Do you like my jumper I've got on today? A nice blue zippy jumper.
A Celtic fan wearing blue. That's no natural.
Am I a Celtic fan? As for Murrow game, Graham, very poor season because they've only won 6 games in this season and only scored 29 goals.
You know, it's funny. Last week when Hamill got sacked, my first words were, you know what's going to happen now? They'll end up beating Hearts. And I completely forgot they were playing St Mirren in midweek. So, yeah, you know, that was a massive win for them. And fair play to Stuart Kettlewell. You know, I did say earlier on that I thought the game on Wednesday night there wasn't a lot in the game. But again, if you look at the amount of goals that Motherwell have scored, how many of those have been Kevin Van Veen? He's probably scored half of those goals. So that's been a massive, massive problem for Motherwell. I do think it'll be a difficult game for Hearts on Sunday because, as I said, the last time we went, they were 1-3-0, but Motherwell were the better side. So it's going to be a big game. And if Motherwell can win this game, if Stuart Kettlewell can get a result, it'll be huge. To get 2 wins on a bounce would be absolutely incredible. I hope it doesn't happen. But it's going to be, Motherwell have been so disappointing. You know, last week against Wraith Rovers, it wasn't a shock that they got beat. We all predicted that. But the way that they lost was so poor. They were terrible. And they'll be looking for a reaction again.
And I think the Motherwell fans will be shouting, always forgiven, come back, Tony Watt.
Yeah, again, I think he's been a massive miss as well. But, you know, the man of many clubs, Tony Watt. Azalino is a St Mirren fan. He said gutted when Saints lost the Motherwell game, but that's the breaks. Yeah, it is. And again, we spoke before you came on air there, Azalino. I think St Mirren have had a very good season. I think Robertson's done a very good job. Disappointing, obviously, the last couple of games. But there wasn't a lot in that Motherwell game. You know, I did say that I thought that the second goal that St Mirren lost was very poor. You know, the goalkeeper shouldn't be getting beat from that. It was a cross, it wasn't a shot. But he shouldn't be getting beat for there. And I think St Mirren have had a very good season. But, you know, those kind of are the breaks. And I think Motherwell did react after the Wraith Rovers game. They had to. But Sunday's going to be a different game entirely. You know, you're playing the team that's third in the league, that's on a very good run. As I just mentioned a minute ago, we've got Lawrence Shanklin back, he wasn't missed against Hamilton last week, but he's been such a big player for Hearts. And having him back, 21 goals this season for Shanklin. If he gets a chance on Sunday, I'd expect him to take it. So yeah, it's going to be a massive game for Motherwell, but as I say, this is a potential job interview for Stuart Kettlewell. If he can get 2 wins in the bounce, Motherwell might just think, you know what, we don't have to look anywhere else. We've got somebody right here that can take the job. So it's a big game for both teams.
So that's the games tomorrow. Now, Graham, we always like to talk about the big talking points of the week. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to get back on your soapbox. Before we get into the soap chat, no, it's not EastEnders. Before you say it, tell you about 2 games coming in the Championship. One on the television, one not. Morton against Dundee as a quarter-8 kickoff, and Queen's Park against Wraith Rovers. Two good games to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think the Morton Dundee game, I think it's on BBC Scotland as well. So I thought they might have showed the Queen's Park Wraith game actually, because that's quite a big game actually. But yeah, 2 massive games. I think it's only like 1 point between Dundee and Queen's Park at the top. It's like there's going to be huge games today. Queen's Park are looking to bounce back after the defeat to Morton. I think it was last week. So it's going to be, 2 massive games. Dundee, they've been okay recently. I think Gary Bowler's done a good job. They'll be looking to pick up 3 points against Morton. So they've got 2 really big games there. And obviously, Wraith Rovers in the back of that win against Motherwell last week, they were brilliant. They'll be fancying themselves against Queen's Park. So these are 2 very big games. And Scottish TV Gold is back with us. Scottish TV Gold says, evening, gents.
Yeah, you're right, Grim. a point between them. Queen's Park 43, Dundee 42. So tight league that.
This honestly, this is why I think the Championship's one of the probably the best league in Scotland, because it is very competitive. You know, anybody right now could win the league. I am still back in Queen's Park. I want them to come up. I do want them to come up. I keep saying this. I want them to come up, but it's so tight. You know, if Dundee win tonight and Queen's Park get beat by Wraith, which is a possibility, then Dundee go back to the top of the league. So it is just so tight in there.
And I did hear what Willie Hockey said the other week. The chair, not the chairman, but he's elected to Queen's Park. I don't know what his actual role is, but when they sing that Ewan Henderson from Hearts, and obviously they get the cup, he says, well, Celtic and Hearts done that, and I'm like that. Well, you used to be a shareholder at Parkhead, now you're. But anyway, we'll move on from that.
It was probably, I think it was maybe 3 seasons ago. Hearts played on the ineligible playing against Cove Rangers. We brought Andy Irvine off the bench, and he shouldn't have played in that game. And all we got, I think a lot of folks said we'll get kicked out of the competition, but we didn't. All we got was, I think, like a 2-point deduction. We're still qualified anyway. So I can kind of understand where Willie Hockey's coming from, that it maybe was a little bit harsh to kick them out of the tournament. But, I mean, I suppose that is a rules now, isn't it?
I'm just hearing from Willie Hockey's actually sent my email to me. I can't believe it. He's actually just said that they found that email from Hart to Dundee. But let's
not go down that road.
Yeah, I know. We'll move on. Yeah, I told you I would get you in your soapbox, but not for that. The other games tomorrow is Ayr United Packet Thistle. We'll come back to that game in a minute. Cove Rangers against Arbroath and Inverness and Hamilton. That looks a very interesting game, that Inverness-Hamilton game, Graham.
Yeah, again, I thought Hamilton's second half against Hearts last week were a lot better than the first half. They were very poor first half. And Inverness going to Livingston last week, and as Scottish TV Goal says here, could not see Livingston lose this 3-0 Inverness last week. That was a shock. Yeah, that was a massive shock. I did not see that coming at all. So Inverness will be absolutely buoyant. And obviously in Billy Mackay, they've got a man that's in banging form just now. So potentially a very big game tomorrow. Hamilton need to pick up points in the league. I think I said this last week as well. Hamilton are a better side than what the league position showed. And I know that John Rankin spoke after the game last week, and he did say that the reason they couldn't open up in the first half was because they played extra time of penalties the game before that. So understandable. But they are a good side, Hamilton. I do think they played well last week in the second half. But Inverness at the moment just look a really, really good side. And to go to Livingston, to go to a Premier League side and score 3 goals, if you can't be flying after that, I don't know when you're going to be flying, because that was a huge, huge result.
And I mean, looking at Cove Rangers against Arbroath, Graham, I mean, it's quite hard to think that Arbroath was only, 2 games away from getting promoted last season. And now, if you look at their league position at the moment, they're lying 9th. So, football's a fun old game, as you say.
I just wonder how much of an effect that's had on this season. I've been so close last season to getting promoted. I wonder if that's had a bigger effect on Arbroath than people maybe might have thought, because the work they put into that, Dick Campbell and that must have put so much work into that season. To have that kind of snatched away from you very late on was so disappointing. Maybe it's understandable that they've kind of dropped off a little bit. So yeah, I mean, Arbroath, I do like them. It'll be a hard game. I think actually, I'm sure it was maybe not the week before last, but I think Cove beat Partick Thistle as well away from home, which was a huge result.
I think it was 3-1. Yeah.
Yeah. Cove have not been on a great run. Paul Hart was at a difficult time since he went back there. So, it could be another massive, massive game tomorrow. I don't know who I think won that. I think Cove at the moment should be in a bit of a high after that game against Partick, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, football's a fun old game, and the season's a fun old time as well, because we spent the majority of Friday nights on the programme saying, I hope Arbroath wins and I hope they come up, but obviously last season they'll be struggling to stay in the Championship the way it's going.
Yeah, and again, There's a lot of folk, I don't know why, but there's quite a few folk that are not massive fans of Dick Campbell. I love Dick Campbell. I think he's brilliant. Him and his brother as well. I think they're really good at what they do. They get the best out of that Arbroath squad, and what they did last season was incredible.
I think he reminds me of Winston at a Skill Game, Graham.
Which one? Dick Campbell?
No, his brother.
Oh, his brother Ian. Yeah, a little bit.
Oh no, not Ian, the guy with the bonnet. I can't remember his name. And the wears glasses.
Oh, and Still Game.
No, and Arbroath, but he reminds me of Winston and Skill Game.
Can't think which one at Arbroath it is.
Nah, he's in the backroom team, but he's not his brother or Dick Campbell himself, but it's some guy in the background.
I don't even know who that is, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you say it yourself. Why did you say that on the radio? Well, I'm saying it. Why did you say that? But I can't take it back, Graham. It's live. Is it live? Yeah, okay.
Oh no, I forgot to press record. No, it is live.
Yeah. Yeah. So Arbroath against Cove Rangers, and listen, that really annoys. Well, not annoys me. I don't know, but when you watched Cove Rangers a few weeks ago on TV, Graham, it was hardly anyone at that game. I think it was the game against Queen's Park.
No, I think it is difficult to get that kind of fan base in the Championship. Again, something I've said before, I do love like these old-fashioned grounds where you can stand behind the barracks and stuff, and it still feels like a kind of 1980s, 90s vibe, and I love that. Cove maybe don't get a lot of supporters, and maybe they've not had a lot to shout about. As I say, Paul Hartley struggled a bit recently, but that win against Partick should give him a lot of confidence to go away from home and win that game the way they did. But yeah, it's maybe not a great support they've got, but if they win games, you tend to find that fans will come back.
Let's speak about the Morton game tonight, Graham. I mean, I've been dead impressed with Morton. That the games I've seen them, and you know, I've been very impressed with. Apart from the Celtic game, Effie Ambrose, I think he's been a standout for Morton this season.
Words I never thought I'd hear. Maybe he's found his level after all this time.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah.
To be fair, he has done a very good job, and I think he always comes across as a kind of joke-like figure. But he is a decent defender. You know, when he puts his mind to it, he is a decent defender, and he has done a very good job. Let's be honest. He's a very good defender when he's on his game, but at times I think like Ryan Porteous, he has these moments where he's just he does daft things. But playing for Morton, it might be a good thing for him. I think he's done a very, very good job, and he could probably still do it in the Premier League for maybe I don't know if Azelinos will still watching this, but like a St Mirren or somebody like at the lower league, he could do a very good job there. But he's done a very good job for Morton, and yeah, I think Morton tonight, it's a big game. There's every chance they could win, but I just think Dundee, the way that they're playing just now, you know, Dundee beat Queen's Park a few weeks ago, 3-0. They dismantled them, really. So I do think Dundee will probably be a bit too strong for Morton.
The other game as well, Graham, Queen's Park against Brave Rovers. You're right. I mean, this game should have been on the TV as well, kind of thing, you know. But I mean, Brave Rovers has been off impressive. They got to the Challenge Cup final last week, and then they beat Murrow. They're lying 6 in the division, so Ian Murray's got them doing well.
He has, and I'll be honest, for an ex-Hibs player, he's actually done a very good job at Wraith Rovers, which is, you know, fair play to him. And again, he's getting the best out of that squad. I think for me, the signing of Ismael Gonçalves is a very good signing. You know, I always liked him when he was at Hearts. Again, a bit of a journeyman. He's been around for a while, but he's a really good player. You know, I think he signed on the Friday, scored on the Saturday. He's a very good player, and him signing is a good signing for Wraith Rovers. I think they will. I think they could beat Queen's Park tonight. I genuinely do. I like the way that Wraith Rovers play. I think Dylan Easton's a really good player. They've got a lot of good players in that squad. And again, I think Wraith Rovers, for me, are a Premier League side. I'd like to see them back up. Whether they will this season, I don't know. Probably not this season, but I do like the way they try and play.
They've got a nice wee skigging there. I don't know, but were you saying last week that you were in that skigging before?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Yeah.
And I remember, I can't remember when it was. It was the kind of maybe early to late 90s. I think I said this before as well. I went to Starks Park for a friendly Wraith Rovers against Hearts, and it was the game that Craig Levine punched his own player, Graham Hogg, and got like a 13, 14 game ban or something. That was a friendly. So I quite like going to Kirkcaldy. It's not that far away. You know, it's a nice wee ground as well, not that difficult to get to. And yeah, I think it's a nice wee ground, and I'd love to see them back in the Premier League because I think Wraith Rovers have always been a good side. And I think it was last season potentially where they beat Aberdeen in the cup. So they're a very good side at home.
Now, if you've been paying attention to the show, what I don't think you have, we haven't spoke about one game, and there's a reason for that, to get Graham up on the soapbox. Before we speak about the game last week at Ibrox, let's speak about the game tomorrow. First of all, Ayr United against Packet Thistle, and another decent game in the Championship. Graham, I mean, Ayr United's in third position. Packet Thistle is in fifth on the table.
Yeah, and obviously Ayr had a difficult game against Elgin City last week, you know, winning 4-1, but for a long spell in that game, Elgin were the far better side. Fair play to Ayr United, they managed to get through it. I think they've got a decent draw in the cup as well, from what I can remember. So yeah, I mean, it's a big game tomorrow. You know, Somerset Park, again, I've never been to that ground, I'd like to go there. It's another nice wee ground. A difficult place to go, and again, someone that I think, and I've said this to Dave and that as well, someone that I'd love to see in the Premier League is Dipo Akinyemi. I think he's a far better player in the Championship, so he'll cause Partick a lot of problems tomorrow. But it's another big game, and again, Ayr United, as you said, sitting third in the league, could they potentially be Premier League football next season? There's every chance they could, and again, what a fantastic achievement that would be for Ayr United.
I think it would be good to see Ayr United up, Graham, because obviously I'm much younger than you. You know what I mean? You're kind of like over the hill guy and stuff like that. But I can see that because you're miles away from me and you don't know where I stay.
I'm next door to you.
Yeah. You're sitting beside me. Yeah. But like Ayr United is not a team that I saw in the SPFL, and it'll be good to see them.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple of times playing at Tynecastle, and like when we were in the Championship and when we played them in the Cup and that a long time ago at Tynecastle, they are a good side, and as I say, they've got that old-fashioned ground which I actually quite like as well, which I've said before. So they are a good side, and for them, again, this is why I said maybe last week, I would love to see the league get expanded and like make it an 18-team league and kind of have Ayr United and all these guys playing in the league. I think it'd be great because I do think at times the league does get a bit stale where you're playing the same teams for potentially 5 times a season if you get them in the cup. So I would quite like to see the league extended. I don't know if that will ever happen, but I think it would be great. I really do.
And also, if you're going to Ayr United, don't be expecting the pie when you do hospitality, because I was telling Graham a story about that last week. But if you want to know the whole story, you've got to buy my book when it comes out in about 15 years' time. I'm writing it bit by bit at the moment, Graham.
And it's called Who Ate All the Pies?
Yeah, no, it's called Jack and Ollie as well. So that's.
Does he not play for Celtic?
He sits beside Angie, and stuff like that. And as for Packet Thistle, Graham, well, we can't speak about Packet Thistle unless we go back to last week's game when we came off air, because Packet Thistle was 1-0 at half time. And I mean, they dominated that game. In fact, they dominated the whole game. They put up a good shift, but it was in matters of the second half. and I think it was 8:15 at night as well that Ian McCall lost his job. But first of all, before we get into that, let's speak about that game, Glenn, because it was a very good cup tie. You couldn't notice the difference between Rangers and Partick Thistle. You would think Partick Thistle would be a Premiership team.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we said last week, Partick in that first half were absolutely fantastic. They played some really good stuff, and I thought they were brilliant. They deserved probably to maybe a couple of goals up in that first half, to be honest. Rangers just, they didn't perform, but you've got to give credit to Partick. I thought they were brilliant in that first half, and, you know, they actually put a lot of Premier League sides to shame. The way they went to Ibrox and had a goal, that's what I want to see every week from anybody that plays against Celtic and Rangers, doing that kind of performance. They were brilliant last week. The way they lost was, you know, to lose the game the way they did was so disappointing. But they were excellent last week. I know they'd lost the last 2 league games disappointingly at home as well. But last week I thought they were brilliant. So when that news came out that Ian McCall had been sacked, I was genuinely gobsmacked. I did not see that coming at all.
Let's speak about the incident then, because I think, I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe not. But what did you make of the incident, Graham? Obviously, I was involving Tillman and, you know, and then he get thrown to the ground by the Partick Thistle players because they scored a goal. I've never saw that in my whole life, Graham, watching football. I don't know about you.
Well, after the show last week, I went away and did something else. I hadn't seen it. And it wasn't until I checked on Twitter and I saw folk talking about it. I thought, well, what's this? I genuinely don't know what to think about that. Obviously, Michael Beale's going to defend his player. And you said that Tillman didn't know what was happening, which you've got to take him at face value. That's fine. But it was a very strange situation. It's not something that I don't think I've ever seen in Scottish football before. And the fact that obviously Tillman comes back on the pitch, he doesn't know that the ball's been kicked out. And he doesn't realise, he doesn't realise that obviously Partick are going to throw the ball back. Actually, it's a poor first touch from the Partick Thistle boy in the first place. Tillman obviously reacts to that. He takes the ball and scores, and after that, it just becomes an absolute melee of players. Now, I think you've got to give credit to Michael Beale here because he could have easily not reacted to that. But in the spirit of fair play, he does obviously allow Partick Thistle to score. You can hear the Rangers fans in the crowd booing, which again, I do get. But it was a very strange situation. And I know Michael Beale's taken a lot of credit for this. And that's absolutely fair enough. But I do kind of think that, and I know he would disagree with us, but I don't think if that's an Old Firm game or another team against like a Hearts or whatever, I don't think they would do that. No. I think it's because it's Partick Thistle, it's a championship team, and they probably think they're going to win the game anyway. Again, I might be wrong here, but I genuinely don't think he does that if it's a bigger team.
Do you think as well that, well, there's a few things here, Graham, right? Do you think the area of the park, right? Do you think it would be if it was an other area of the park, they wouldn't do that? It was because the goal was basically kind of like behind them.
I think so. I mean, again, you've got to take Beale at face value when he says that Tillman didn't know. And that's fair enough. He maybe didn't, but I think it's one of these ones that you've never really seen before. You know, I think if that's maybe up the other end, and obviously if Partick Thistle have got to throw the other end, that probably doesn't happen. But it's just the way that it happens. It was a very strange situation. And again, maybe if the Partick Thistle player doesn't take such a poor first touch, that whole thing doesn't happen in the first place.
Yeah, I was way a poor touch, Graham. But I don't know if you remember the last time I really saw that happening was against Celtic in Motherwell and Brendan Rodgers' last game when Celtic put the ball out, and I think it was a Celtic shy, but Motherwell continued playing and they went up the park and scored. and I think that was like 2-1 or something in the game. Celtic won it, but at the time it was 2-1 in the game, and that was the only time I kind of saw a situation like that. But what I never saw was, and maybe Alan McGregor was determined that the Packet Thistle guy wasn't going to score.
I was going to say that was very poor for me. There was no need to try and be funny about it. Whether he must have obviously realised what was happening. The fact that the Packet Thistle was going to let it go through and score, and then to try and act like an idiot, basically, which is what he tried to do, and not let the boys score was, I thought it was daft, to be honest. And he's taken a lot of stick from that, McGregor, and rightly so. There was no need for it. And I know that down in England, there has been a lot of stuff over the past few years. Like, there has been a lot of fair play stuff. Like, I remember, I can't remember when it was, but I'm sure it was Everton, Sheffield Wednesday, potentially, and Paulo Di Canio had a chance to score. And the keeper went down injured. And Di Canio actually caught the ball and didn't score. And he got a fair play award for that. That has happened a few times in England where that's happened, but it's very rarely happened here. But as I say, I would love to see, and again, I'm taking Michael Beale at face value here. He talks about the values of Rangers and stuff, and he wouldn't want to win the game that way. I honestly don't think if that's a Celtic Rangers game that he does the same thing, because that crowd would go absolutely mental if they did that.
We're going to happen next week in the Big Cup final, Graham.
No, of course it wouldn't. It's very easy to say you would do that. But you look at the reaction of the Rangers fans last week. They were raging, and that was against Partick Thistle. Imagine doing that against Celtic. They would be absolutely chased out of town for that. There's no way that I think he does that next week.
Do you think that all right, Rangers won the game and all that, right? And obviously that the game was overshadowed by that incident, right? And Rangers won the game. But do you think that Rangers fans were coming out Ibrox saying, yeah, we won the game, but see that Michael Beale? What I'm trying to see here is, do you think some Rangers fans would have lost faith, and not lost faith, but lost kind of like, and I can't think the word that I'm in for the moment. But
respect.
Yeah. Aye, yeah.
Yeah, I think potentially, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of Rangers fans last week that I saw on Twitter, even after the game, were not happy about that. And that's no disrespect again, but that's against Partick Thistle. Now, again, if you were to do that against Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, you would be chased out of town for that. And as Lino's right, Alan McGregor has shown poor temperament many times. Wasn't he one of the Scotland bench players doing the childish hand gestures? Yes, he was. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And I don't think he played for Scotland again after that. So yeah, I mean, I just think, again, last week, I will say, fair credit to Michael Beale for doing that. That was a really good gesture. But doing that in a game like against, I mean, I'll say this now. If that was Hearts against Hibs, I would not want us doing that. That would just be, no, for me, it's just, I wouldn't be doing that if that was me. But as I say, fair play to Michael Beale. It took a lot of credit to do that. He could have easily said, no, we're playing on. A lot of other folk would have done that. But as I say, to say that you've got the values of Rangers, you wouldn't want to win the game that way. If that same thing happens next week, there's no chance he's allowing Celtic to score. Not a chance.
And it overshadowed the game because Packet Thistle, as we said in the first half, and they played well, and that continued into the second half as well.
Yeah, I mean, Partick Thistle deserve a lot of credit, and I don't want to be out of turn here, but for me, there's something else going on there, because for Ian McCall to be sacked on the back of what was a fantastic performance against Rangers is very strange. There's something else not quite right there.
I think, Graham, that we've all wondering what happened again Monday, right? And I was speaking to a few people on Monday after the game, and they were saying, do you think it's related to the game? And I said, well, no. But if you were going to kind of like narrow it down, I think you might say that because the Packet Thistle manager Ian McCall went over to shake Michael Beale's hand during the game. But I don't know if I don't know if that's enough to get him the sack. But if Packet Thistle was going to sack him, why not do it before the game or a week before the game or whatever, but not 2 hours after the game?
I mean, what if Partick had won that game? Would they have been sacked after that? That would have been even harsher. But it just seemed there was something not quite right about that. Again, I know that before that game they'd lost the last 2 home games, but to go to Ibrox and put in a performance like that and lose by 1 goal and very late on, I thought it was very, very harsh to sack him. I just feel that there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know. It might not come out, or it might, I don't know, but I just thought it was when the news came out that he'd been sacked, I was genuinely gobsmacked. I thought, nah. Like I think you said it before we came on air. You thought it was a joke as well. It was a very, very strange timing of it.
The Packet Thistle interim manager, Chris Gooden, admitted the squad was stunned by Ian McCall's sacking. So he must have actually found out, and he actually plays for Packet Thistle like everybody else, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, normally you get kind of a vibe that something's going to happen, but clearly the Partick Thistle players never had that at all. They've obviously gone back in that changing room, disappointed that they've lost the game, but they've played so well. And I'm sure Ian McCall's going to the changing room as well. Delighted with the performance, looking forward to the next game. And then to find out a few hours later that he's basically got the bullet, there's obviously something in the background that we are not aware of, because it just seems it was very, very harsh. And as I said, there's a lot of Premier League teams don't go Ibrox and put in that kind of performance. And I'll say Hearts is one of them because we don't play that well at Ibrox. For Partick to do what they did last week was incredible. And I just feel sorry for Ian McCall to get sacked on the back of that.
And is it not ironic, Graham, that they're playing Ayr United tomorrow, one of Ian McCall's teams that he used to be a manager of as well?
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, I think you might have mentioned this in the group chat as well. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Ian McCall rocked up at Motherwell, for example. Maybe that's a job that Ian McCall could potentially take on. I don't know, but there's just something very strange about that whole thing.
And I know that there's actually been divides, and I've been trying for a few weeks now to get somebody on from Packet Thistle, like the fans, the Packet Thistle fans trust. But I know that they've got a bit of a divide at the moment in terms of the fans, because the owner of Packet Thistle, I think is it not fan ownership now, Graham?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's got something to do with it. But yeah, the timing's unbelievable, because if you were going to sack Ian McCall, why not do it the Monday before the game, or whatever? But to do it like 2 hours after the game. In fact, I don't think Ian McCall was actually home when they get sacked.
I mean,
it's weird.
I wonder if he had any inkling before the game that was on the cards. Probably not. Again, unless Ian McCall comes out and says what the whole story is. I don't know if he can or not, but it just seems, as I say, to go Ibrox and put in that kind of performance. And as we were on air last week, said that the first half they were fantastic. It just seems very, very strange.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying, Graham, right? But if Ian McCall knew that was going to happen, he might have told the team before that game, and that team wouldn't have put in a brilliant performance. So
possibly, but I think if you go to Ibrox in a cup game, you're going to put on a performance no matter what. And the way they played, I mean, to be honest, no matter who manages them now, I think if you're Partick Thistle, that's got to be the standard for the rest of the season. You've got to perform at that level every game now. For whoever comes in, maybe it'll be Jim Goodwin. Maybe he'll drop down a level. You never know.
Chris Durden said, I spoke to them on McCall and Archibald on Sunday night. Then Ian phoned me on Monday. What is the mark of the man, says Chris Durden. So that's a weird one on that one. We'll keep an eye on that one as well. Might come in yet. Maybe not. Okay, before we go, let's get round up. I've got into your ice hockey. Go to Belfast this weekend, Graham, because Belfast Giants are playing the Glasgow Cran tomorrow night with a 7 o'clock kickoff if you're into your ice hockey. Right, that's all for us tonight. Thanks for all your comments. That's good, Graham. As always, you can come off your soapbox now, Graham, until Sunday. We'll be back on Sunday between 3 and 5 o'clock. Have a good weekend, and we'll speak to you soon.